I'm going to read an email. We take listener communication on topics that we've talked about on our previous episodes, on, episodes 100 episodes ago, whatever you feel like writing to us about. Yeah. We take listener communication, 657-464-7609, or I doubt it at Dollemore.com. This listener communication comes in the form of an email, so we are going to get to that right now, and it comes at a really good time. We'll get to that after we read it. Hi, Brittany and man.
And man. All right. I'll take it.
I've been listening since episode 36.
Wow. I think that might be one of my favorite episodes.
What episode is it?
It's either a Ryan Bell interview episode, which I think it's 31, that one. But 36, I think, is where we did real or randomly generated.
Oh, the Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, and where we talked about, I think, Dr. Phil doing his, or Dr. Oz doing his Reiki hand movement shit over people's open hearts. I think that's that episode.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a good one.
Well, it's a long time ago.
Long time ago.
I've been listening since episode 36, and I wanted to add to the conversation for the first time. We love this. I know Brittany has shared a lot on this topic, and I hope I can offer more to the story. Sorry if it's long. I don't know why I subjected myself to the Republican debates last night. It was everything I knew it would be. The most frustrating part for me personally was what they had to say about abortion. Again, no surprises, but still. I had no idea how pressing it was to save all the babies being aborted moments before full-term birth. I'm sure no one on that stage has really known someone in that situation because it doesn't happen. But I am 100% sure they do all know someone who has terminated a pregnancy after 15 weeks. That number kept being thrown out there as if it was a thing we should all easily agree on. I have always supported the right to choose, believing that I would never choose abortion for myself. When Roe was overturned, I knew what it could mean. I was angry on behalf of all the women whose stories I knew were coming, but I could never have guessed that within the year, at the age of 47, I would find myself in a Planned Parenthood having an abortion. Add me to the list of women who terminated a wanted, although very unexpected, pregnancy due to medical issues. Those medical issues don't show up during the first trimester. In fact, many do not have the information needed to make that kind of decision until after their 20-week scan. It's just not possible to know. My genetic screening came back with some red flags at 12 weeks, which kept us from announcing, but the 13-week scan looked normal, which meant we needed an amnio to confirm anything. My doctor would not risk it until 16 weeks, parenthetically pushed back an extra week due to her vacation. I spent that time researching stories like mine, hoping for good news, but knowing it was unlikely. We didn't actually know what we were dealing with until I was 18 weeks along, and even that was vague, but enough, and I had to act quickly. Thankfully, I live in Illinois. Pro-lifers really hate our state. Our governor is moving full speed ahead, embracing our new role as the top Midwest destination for abortions. Governor Pritzker recently announced an investment of over $23 million toward improving abortion access in Illinois, including a hotline for complicated cases. We passed a bill to hold pro-life centers accountable for deceptive practices. We prohibit using our technology to track women seeking health care across state lines. But even in Illinois, an abortion isn't easy. I was lucky to get an appointment, and I had to travel an hour and a half. At 17 weeks, it's a 2-day procedure. I was billed over $2,000. The time off, 2 days out of town, needing a ride home, someone to care for our disabled daughter, the expense, having to ask for help, the awful, overwhelming idea of simply having to do it, the urgency. I cannot express enough how impossible it all felt. I was sure I couldn't do it, but I had no choice when faced with the alternative. I am a happily married 47-year-old woman living in Illinois, and I felt this way. I understand why someone would change their mind or look for any other solution. Of course they do. My hometown Planned Parenthood once offered the pill, which is only an option in the first trimester. I say once offered because that location closed in January when it was firebombed. But what a difference it would have made if they had been open and had provided surgical abortions. I also couldn't stop thinking about how different it was a decade ago when I lost a baby at 17 weeks. I had gone in for my regular appointment and found no heartbeat. My doctor scheduled a DNC at the hospital, down the street, covered by insurance. If my doctor could have done this now, she would have, but there was still a heartbeat. When they say abortion is healthcare, that idea doesn't go far enough. I'm not grateful for the treatment I received this time. I'm only grateful that it wasn't worse. These leaders in politics who do represent the hearts and minds of so many around me are singling out women like me in their abortion arguments. We're the ones having abortions after 15 weeks. It's me. And I know my story is a common one. When I see friends in my newsfeed talking about it, I want to tell them about the nightmare I went through this year and ask how they wish my story had ended. I want to make them say it to me, but I don't, because most people in my life have no idea I was even pregnant. So I'm sharing it here instead. Thanks for listening. Jenny.
Powerful. It's an unfortunate thing that women they have to relive their trauma in order to move the needle, to convince other people that what is being said is true. Mm-hmm. That Jenny has to relive this in an effort to take care of women who will come after her. Mm-hmm. It's just barbaric and wrong that Republicans, time and time and time again, knowing what they know, knowing the fact, is maybe not the rank and file, but leaders in the Republican Party, people who actually have a vote in Congress, they know, and they act in spite of that knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I say this comes at a really interesting time because this is something I've actually been talking with friends about in my personal life. And I often think about the question that we ask people who come on the show for interviews, the final question that we ask them.
Sure.
What's the most recent thing you've changed your mind about? And I don't know if this is the most recent, but I would say up until relatively recently, for too long, I would have agreed that it was reasonable that there
a 20-week abortion ban or something.
Yeah, that there is a certain number of weeks and then abortion should be banned. I would have said, yeah, that seems reasonable. Now I would not say that.
Yeah.
And that's because of stories like Jenny's, but also because of what the data shows. And the percentage of abortions that happen at or after 21 weeks, they're uncommon. It represents 1%.
1%
of all abortions in the United States. And like Jenny shared, typically these procedures cost over $1,000.
Sure.
They are somewhere that you have to travel to. It's over the course of days. It is only performed by a subset of abortion providers. It's difficult to access. And the reason that people seek abortions after 21 weeks is because of medical concerns, like fetal abnormalities or maternal life endangerment. And so the other aspect of this is that if you have barriers, if you don't allow people to have access to abortion, then it runs the risk of pushing abortions later in pregnancy. And so people who are concerned about abortions later in pregnancy or who pretend to be for political reasons, you'd think that they would hear this and say, it makes sense that we shouldn't legislate this. This actually seems like a healthcare issue.
Right.
And people are not using abortion as birth control because if you are using it that way, it doesn't make sense. It's costly, $2,000 for the procedure.
Right.
I mean, please, people are not wanting to wait this long.
It is, it really does prove that they're not acting in good faith. Because if they really, truly wanted the outcomes that they say they do, they would go about it in a more genuine way, not in a way that complicates and makes things more difficult for people and puts people in more stress and more life-threatening situations.
Right.
It's cruelty is the point.
Well, and they are now going after medication abortion, as we're seeing with these court cases across the country. But that has actually had a role in helping abortions occur earlier in pregnancy. In fact, it's been relatively stable over the past few decades that abortions are most likely to occur before 13 weeks. And that's about 91 to 92, sometimes even 93, depending on what data set you're looking at, of abortions occur.
93%.
Yes. Yeah. At or before 13 weeks. Yeah. So the vast majority are occurring before 13 weeks.
And listen, we can't oversell enough when you say the vast majority. We're nearing 95%, but they want to legislate and restrict everyone's rights based on a scant percentage of abortions that take place. And even those aren't birth control for the reason of birth control.
Right.
And I'm only dealing with their arguments on their face. Even if it was for birth control, it's fuck off.
Yeah, and most abortions, like like I was kind of heading toward, they're occurring earlier in pregnancy at or before 8 weeks. And they believe this is happening because of access to medication abortion. So when you give people the tools to manage their own life, they will make decisions that are best for them. And they don't want to wait until 21 weeks. They want to take care of the situation.
By putting up roadblocks, though, conservatives make abortions end up being past 13 weeks, past 15 weeks, rather than giving people immediate access to have an abortion at the earliest moment they possibly can.
Right, by putting in waiting periods, by making people look at an ultrasound, by whatever the methods are, it's going to delay care.
Yeah, clouding people's judgments by giving weirdo Christian nationalist propaganda at these crisis pregnancy centers and shit, where they lie to people seeking abortions about what their purpose is.
Right. And so I used to hear the phrase abortion anytime on demand. And I used to kind of go, whoa,
right.
It's a little radical for me. And now I'm like, no,
yes,
absolutely.
Right.
Abortion on demand anytime, because people are not doing this for fun. They're doing this because they need it. And it's life-saving care. End of story.
Yeah. Thanks for the email, Jenny. I can only imagine, I was going to say we know, but I don't know. I can only imagine how much shit that brings up for you. And we very much appreciate you allowing us to use our platform to tell your story. It's awesome. And we hope that it moves the needle even just a little bit.
Absolutely.
We'd love to hear from you. You can call, leave us a voicemail, 657-464-7609. Of course, you can email a voice memo from your smartphone to idoubt@dollemore.com.